Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dallas Cowboys coverage and my first video of the offseason. It's been a crazy one. I've been wanting to do this video for the past few days, but something new keeps happening. It keeps getting pushed back, but here we are, a week in, and I think I can fairly confidently say that this is the most eventful offseason I have ever seen as a Dallas Cowboys fan. I mean, it's been crazy. We're only a week in, and the Cowboys are doing stuff. For years and years and years, we've been saying, please just do something, whether it's free agency or trades or re signing at players. Just, I don't even know, just do something. And finally, they did. Finally, this front office woke up. Finally, they were active, and it seems like this team might actually be all in. It's crazy. This is something that it's foreign to us, and I almost don't even know how to feel. It's insane. And so I'm just gonna break it all down, the additions, the subtractions, everything in between. It's been a wild one so far. In only a week, a lot has gone down, so this might be a longer one. Bear with me, and let's just jump right in. So first, I'm trying to even think of where I want to start. Let's start with some re-signing. So bringing back Donovan Wilson, one of the first moves they made. I loved that. Really not a bad deal either. Just was I really expected him to command a lot more. I think it was only like 7 million a year. So good deal there. You lock him up for a couple years, keep that three-headed monster at safety together. Love that move. Same thing with Leighton Vander, a 2-year contract. He was, I think it was only 5 or 6 million. I mean, they are getting guys back on the cheap. I think it was 4.5. I was really surprised. I thought that these guys were going to be asking for more. I thought the Cowboys were going to be like, no, we don't want to pay all that, like usual. But bringing key defensive players back, Vander, Esch, Donovan Wilson, two huge moves, necessary moves, and I think that can't be understated. That was huge, huge by the Cowboys. So beyond those two, as for additions, they go out and trade for Stephon Gillmore, obviously 2019 Defensive Player of the Year, multiple time Pro Bowl, All Pro corner, and you gave up one fifth round comp pick. So it wasn't even your actual fifth round pick. It was a comp pick for, I believe, Connor Williams leaving last year. Absolutely incredible trade. I love these trades. Giving up day three picks for proven caliber Pro Bowl type players. I mean, even if you just have Stephon Gilmore for this 1 year, I think that's worth it because fifth round picks are just it's tough. All those day three picks it's a shot in the dark. You could end up with someone like Deron Bland, but you could also end up with someone like John Ridgway who wasn't even on the team. By the way, that's who you gave up for Amari Cooper last season. Yeah, not feeling good about that one. But we'll get to wide receiver later in the video. So just these kind of trades. I remember a few years ago they gave up a 6 for Robert Quinn. Look how that turned out. Give up these day three picks. You don't need to use them all. If you can get a proven quality player, a starter, a star at cornerback, do it. And now all of a sudden you're removing needs. This is what free agency period is for, taking care of needs before the draft, and then you can really focus in. Cowboys haven't done that in recent years, and finally they're waking up and they're making moves. So love this move. You now have Trayvon Diggs opposite of Stephon Gilmore at cornerback. Huge. I mean, that's maybe one of the best duos in the entire league. You have both Deron Bland and Jordan Lewis filling out the nickel fourth cornerback positions. Quarterback room's looking strong. It was pretty rough going into at the end of last season. All the injuries were part of that, but huge addition here, bringing in a proven veteran, former defensive player of the year. I love it. Man, it feels good. It feels good the Cowboys are doing something. So let me know how you would grade these moves, grade the offseason so far. For me, it's an A plus plus plus, however many times you want to say, because compared to what the Cowboys have done in the past, this is basically more than they've done in seriously, like I don't know how many years combined. It's awesome to see, and it's only been a week. The Cowboys really wheeling and dealing, making moves. Love to see it. So continuing on, I will talk a few losses. So Noah Brown, he signed a 1-year deal with the Texans. I'm fine with that. He was a good option, but very replaceable in my opinion. Another one to the Texans was also Dalton Schultz. He just left today. So, that one's a little bit sad for me, but I'm okay with it. I think both of those guys are very similar in ways that, even though I would say Dalton Schultz is quite a bit better than Noah Brown, I think these are two guys that are good players, but they're not great players. They're not, I mean, not that I wouldn't re-sign them, but it's just, I'm not going to throw a lot of money. I'm not going to give multi-year extensions to players like this because they're disposable. These are players that, like I said, they're good, but really I believe they're elevated by the play of Dak Prescott at quarterback. When you have a good quarterback, a top 10 quarterback, even with Dak's struggles, I believe that is what he is, a top 10 quarterback. Those type of players, those type of quarterbacks elevate other players on the team. Noah Brown is an average wide receiver, but with Dak at quarterback, all of a sudden he's a good receiver. Dalton Schultz, I would say, is a good tight end. With Dak at quarterback, he's borderline elite. He's great. Um, but remember what happened to Dalton Schultz the minute Dak got hurt and Cooper Rush stepped in? He disappeared. His production was just about zero for multiple games. It's just these guys, they're products of good quarterbacks, they're products of Dak. And now with Davis Mills over there, I guarantee they're not going to have as good of seasons. So these are guys that I believe are easily replaceable. Jake Ferguson, I loved what I saw out of him year one. I believe he can be what Dalton Schultz is now, even better, maybe. Because remember, this is what Schultz was. He was a fourth round pick. I remember when Blake Jarwin went down and Schultz was your only tight end really on the roster. Everyone's freaking out, trying to figure out who can we trade for, who can we sign. But Dalton Schultz, he stepped right into that role because of Dak. He finds him open. Dalton Schultz isn't going to do a whole lot after the catch, much like Jason Witten was in the later part of his career. It's reliable target. He can catch it, but he's not going to do much after. Dak's finding them. Dak's putting those guys in a position to succeed. Jake Ferguson, on the other hand, he offers some yak, some after the catch ability, some exciting plays. We see him hurdling people. So I really believe he can step in. I think also you draft a tight end, maybe, day two. I would say maybe a third round pick, fourth. I don't want to spend too high on tight ends, much like running backs, in my opinion. And then, maybe an exception this year on the running back side of things. Maybe I'll bring that up later. But tight ends, I just don't like spending first round picks on tight ends because I believe they're easily replaceable. I feel like a day two, day three pick can step in and do just fine. Dalton Schultz did it. Jason Witten did it years ago. I don't think you need to spend a super high pick on a tight end, just like, as we say with running backs now, sort of that new philosophy, if you will. Kyle Pitts, he was a fourth overall pick. He is, I would say, pretty equal to Dalton Schultz so far in his career. He's been simply disappointing for being a top 5 pick. So I don't love spending a first round pick on a tight end, but day two, day three, great. Add some depth to Ferguson. You have Hendershot. And to me, that's a quality tight end room, and that's enough to be passable, especially with the other weapons you've acquired. Continuing on. So the Cowboys a few days ago also traded for Brandin Cooks. Huge move. I was really hoping they would address the receiver position prior to the draft. I'm still all for picking a receiver, like I said, maybe day two, day three, just like the tight ends. But I didn't really want that to have to be your first round pick. It can if it needs to be, but I really like this option of going in and getting a proven veteran. You have CeeDee Lamb, he's your number one for sure. Gallup, I think he's fine as a number 3, but he simply was not good enough as a number 2 last season. Noah Brown outplayed him most of the year. But now you bring in a proven guy, Brandin Cooks, proven veteran. He's a speed threat. That's, I think, something else that's notable. The Cowboys don't really have a whole lot of speed on this team other than maybe Cavontae Turpin as in the pass catching position. Not that CeeDee Lamb's slow, but this is a guy that can burn you vertically. This is a huge addition for me. And again, you gave up a 5th round comp pick and a 6th round pick for next season. That's smart moves, people. I mean, that's what you do. A 5th round pick and a 6th round pick, and you can get a Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver. You do that every single time. Not to mention the Texans ate, I believe, $6 million of his contract, and the Cowboys also restructured his contract earlier today. So his cap hit is way down, and you still have around $15 million in cap space. So hey, it's been a week, but I don't think the Joneses are done. Believe it or not, whether it's re-signing guys, maybe even some extensions for CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs type of players. But whatever they do decide to do, we have cap space. There's flexibility there. So finally, the Cowboys making moves, and who knows, maybe more will be ahead. Ronald Jones, I will say, is visiting or was supposed to visit today. I haven't really heard a whole lot more on that front, but who knows, maybe he could be an option as well. Just wanted to mention that real quick. So continuing, Jake McQuaid was also signed by the Detroit Lions. He was your long snapper. He got hurt earlier in the season, so he was replaced by Matt Overton anyway, who is also a free agent. So Cowboys will be once again in the long snapper market. So that's just something to make note of. So I think I'm getting through most of the moves. Obviously, there's the one elephant in the room, and that's Ezekiel Elliott. It was a tough one for me. Zeke has been one of my favorite Cowboys, I would say, of all time. I mean, growing up in that 2016 year, I was 12 years old. I can't believe it was that long ago, but it was just so magical that season. I really, really do wish that Zeke could have won a Super Bowl here in Dallas, but I will never forget that season. It was just something else. The play of him and Dak, the 2-1-4 duo in Dallas, it was something to remember. It was incredible, and that is a season I will never forget. One of my favorites. I would say actually my favorite ever as a Cowboys fan. So hopefully they can top it with the Super Bowl sometime soon, but just shout out to Ezekiel Elliott. He is, in my opinion, the third best running back in Cowboys history. Obviously, is not what he was in 2016. It's just he's not the same guy. And from a cap standpoint, from a money standpoint, from really any business realistic standpoint, it was a good move. The Cowboys, it was a necessary move. It was time. But from a heart perspective, from a Cowboys fan perspective, and from an Ezekiel Elliott fan perspective, it's tough. This one is one that does hurt, and it will hurt for a while. Zeke's one of those players that I can't imagine seeing in another uniform. Much like Romo when he was rumored to be going to another team after 2016. It's just one of those players that doesn't belong in another uniform. Jason Witten going to the Raiders, Emmitt Smith with the Cardinals, just doesn't feel right. So Zeke obviously released by the Cowboys. I haven't heard too much about interest with other teams. There were some rumors about the Bucks. Not sure where he ends up going. Who knows? Maybe they'll bring him back super cheap if he doesn't get interest. Hey, don't give me hope. But Zeke obviously just such a great player, such a great teammate. He's a guy that will play no matter what. It reminds me a lot of Jason Witten, just a true Iron Man. He'll go out there hurt, whatever it takes to compete, to be alongside his teammates. A true leader, and one of the greatest players to ever wear a Cowboys uniform, especially at the running back position. Shout out to Ezekiel Elliott. What a career he had. I still can't believe it's over. It just feels like just yesterday Dak and Zeke were rookies balling out, and man, the future was bright. But obviously here we are a few years later, still haven't gotten all the way to the promised land, but the Cowboys finally making moves, like I said earlier, finally looking like they might be all in this year. Obviously disappointed Zeke can't be a part of it, but I wish him the best wherever he goes. Zeke, never stop eating. We'll never forget you here in Dallas. You will always be a Cowboy, and I wish you the absolute best going forward. So shout out Ezekiel Elliott once again. So obviously that's tough. It's tough letting him go. But again, you have some more flexibility that'll free up 11 million, 10.9 I think is the exact number once you get to June 1st. So you don't have that money yet. I want to make that clear. You're at, I believe, 15 million in cap space right now, and you will get another 11 on June 1st. So that'll help you. Obviously, that'll cover way more than cover your draft picks. Maybe like the Cowboys like to do some of those summer signings, and Everson Griffin type of player, last minute guy. So you're going to have a lot of flexibility. You still have 15 million to spend now. Obviously, you'll save a little bit of that for the draft picks, but remember, you're going to get more for Zeke. I want to just really shout out the Cowboys for making a lot of good moves this offseason, restructuring DeMarcus Lawrence's contract, Tyron Smith, Dak, Gallup. I think there are a lot of contract restructures, and this is This is smart football management. I want everyone to, understand it. Just so you know that what that means, it's not the Cowboys players taking pay cuts, which is what they wanted Zeke to do, and that didn't work out. This is simply just converting money, pushing some to the future, maybe turning some into signing bonus. So the players, they're not sacrificing money, they're just getting it up front. So it just lowers the cap hit. This is just smart football management. And this is something that smart football teams do. And not to say the Cowboys haven't done this in the past, but I feel like they've done it especially effectively this offseason. It's just such an easy way to clear up money. You could have done the exact same thing to Amari Cooper's contract. You would have saved just about the same as you did by trading him. It's smart. You don't have to cut everyone. You don't have to trade everyone to gain cap space. All you have to do is manipulate some money. Cap space, it's not a myth. It's a thing, but it is so easily work aroundable. You can do so much with it. The Saints did it for years, pushing money into the future. They kept their championship window open for years and years until now. Drew's retired, Drew Brees, that is, and now you take your lumps with the cap space. But it's easy to make the money work. The Chiefs had, look at their signings. They have Patrick Mahomes on a huge payroll, but it's not stopping them from making big moves. For years, I feel like that's been the excuse. It's like, oh, Dak's on a big contract, we can't afford it. No, and finally, I just love that the Cowboys are making it work, moving money around, making smart decisions, and bringing in talent, bringing in proven veterans, win now moves. The Cowboys are finally making them, and I'm excited. It's only been a week, and I'm already excited, so excited for next season. It has been a complete 180 to last year's offseason. For the first time in years going into last season, I had zero expectations. You can watch my videos. I complained about the offseason all season long. Even before the 49ers game, I was talking about how this team was simply not in a win-now mentality. It was not put in a position to succeed. This year, finally, they're going all in. They're making moves. I think a key one was letting Kellen Moore go. As much as I liked him at first, and I felt like he really could be the future of this team, it didn't work out. His play calls got stale. It was slant routes, curl routes, and curl routes was a big one. So many interceptions happened on those plays, and then running back dives up the middle. It was frustrating. You were putting your quarterback in a position to fail. A lot of those interceptions, like I said, were off of curl routes. We're off of these weird hitch routes and just so much, just predictability. I felt like just as a fan watching, I knew what play was going to come next. I can't imagine what the teams that are studying film are seeing. It was frustrating. It was getting stale. It was getting old, and you were suffering because of it. You were putting Dak in a position to, and I'm not going to say they're all Kellen Moore's fault. That's something he's going to have to work on, but a lot of those interceptions would not have happened if you had ran the ball more, if you had called some different plays, really. I think that was a big move and a really necessary one. So Mike McCarthy obviously will be taking over as the play caller, so he will now be calling your plays. I like this just because Mike McCarthy, I feel like there's been a lot of excuses around him. Players like him, I want to make it clear, I'm a lot more on board with Mike McCarthy than I was, I would say, a couple off seasons ago. He's put together some winning seasons. I'm not going to say that he's a bad coach, but there's been setbacks. There's been shortcomings. It's just the Cowboys still have only won the one playoff game. They haven't quite gotten to where they need to be as a true championship contender. So no more excuses this year. You can't say it was Kellen Moore's fault or it was Dak's fault or any of that. You're in charge now. You have the play calling responsibilities. You're the head coach. So I like that they're putting Mike McCarthy on on the not the hot seat, but trying to think of the right word, but just there's no more excuses. There's no one to be the fall guy. There's no scapegoating anymore. It's on Mike, and he can either go out there and have a great season, take this team finally into a deep playoff run, and I will be sold. Give him a contract extension, or maybe they come up short again. Maybe they're first round exits. Maybe they only win one playoff game. And at that point, I think it's time to reassess, because now your head coach has taken on the role of OC basically in play calling. He has it all, and now you're making offseason moves. That you can't make that excuse either. I think this is going to be the make or break year for Mike McCarthy. If he succeeds, great, awesome. I think we're going to be in a true position to compete in the playoffs and even for a Super Bowl. And then if he doesn't, okay, now you reassess. Now maybe you look to bring in a new coach because that's just, like isn't the solution. I believe he can be, but I really like that it's on him this time. And we'll see what the result of that is. So once again, just it's only been 1 week, but I mean, who's not on the Cowboys hype train right now? I am just itching for the season to start. It's exciting. The Cowboys finally making moves. I'm going through it in my head, just trying to make sure I didn't leave anyone out. Obviously, I'll make another video as more moves come in, but it's been a good offseason so far. Finally, the Cowboys stepping up to the plate, making big time moves, and it's exciting to see. And I just can't wait for the season. So, as I went through Luke Gifford, that was another player. He was signed by the Tennessee Titans. Not the biggest loss, but again, just special teams player. Luckily, to counter that, the Cowboys did re-sign C.J. Goodwin, your other special teams captain, by the way. He's a great player. I like him so much. I think he's just so underrated because no one pays attention to the special teamer, but he makes a lot of key plays. He's a true leader on this team, and happy to bring him back. And I think one final one, if I'm not forgetting anyone, was Connor McGovern. He was signed by the Buffalo Bills. He was, I think, going to be a backup again this year after Tyron Smith came back. I believe your offensive line will be Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, Zach Martin, and finally Terence Steele, as will be back from the torn ACL. So I think Connor McGovern was going to once again kind of be slid back into that backup role. And I just don't think that's what he wanted. You weren't going to pay him what the Bills did to be a backup. It just didn't make sense. So, I don't think the biggest loss there. I think it was just something that we saw coming. The Cowboys just weren't going to pay all that money for a backup offensive lineman. So, thank you, Connor McGovern, for your service, and you good luck as a Buffalo Bills. So, the Cowboys, let's just run through it once again real quick. Stephon Gillmore coming in, Brandin Cooks coming in. You re-signed Donovan Wilson. You re-signed Leighton, Vander, Esch. Great moves. Awesome moves. Finally, win now moves. The Cowboys, I'm so proud of them. finally getting stuff done the right way and putting your team in a position to succeed. Tony Pollard is also back. I don't think I mentioned that he also got franchise tagged. I think that was the perfect solution for him because obviously coming off that foot injury, I think he's going to be okay. I don't think that's really going to hinder him as much as some people are fearing it will. But just in case, I don't want to commit long term to a guy who's coming off of a major injury. We saw with Michael Gallup, he just did not look the same last year. Obviously, that's a torn ACL, much more serious injury than a foot fracture, I believe what it was, something like that. So I think he will be a lot better. A lot of times it takes a couple years, those ACL recoveries, but still, just I don't want to pay running backs in the first place. I certainly don't want to pay one coming off of an injury. So franchise tag, great move there. So I like that a lot. So again, the moves are great. Obviously, Zeke is gone, McGovern, Luke Gifford, some of these players. Tough to see them go for sure. And there's a lot of other free agents still out there that are still kind of in limbo, and I will discuss them as moves happen. So stay tuned for those videos, and I'll do those, as the news comes. I'll probably do another one next week and to recap everything that happened. Of course, unless something major goes down, I'll try to make a quicker video for that. So, hey, with this Cowboys offseason, you never know. Normally, we're like, no, nothing major is going to happen. But, hey, I just keep waking up at like 10 a.m., and then all of a sudden I see 2 hours ago we traded for some star player. I'm like, oh, man, okay, I need to wake up earlier. So free agency off to a great start, obviously. Re-signing players. I will make note the Cowboys still have not signed an outside free agent, so who knows, maybe some more moves will be coming, but obviously the trades more than make up for that. Obviously bringing in some great players there. But just real quick before I finish, I want to talk a little bit of draft. Interesting position now because you're filling needs. Going in, I was thinking that your first round pick was either going to be a cornerback or a wide receiver. But now you've filled those roles, and now I don't think that's really as big of a need as it was. It certainly isn't. You have quality starters there now. So let me know going into the draft, at least the first round, what is your main position that you want the Cowboys to focus on? Who do you want the Cowboys to pick first round, whether it's a position or a player? So just let me know what's going to be your draft strategy going in. Obviously, there's still free agency to go, still more players that are going to be re-signed, brought in, and obviously the roster as it continues to round out, it'll be a lot more clear. But I did make my first mock draft a couple of days ago, and I had the Cowboys selecting Bijan Robinson out of Texas. Yeah, interesting move. So I like it a lot. I'm excited for the possibility of Bijan being there because to me, he is a player that is your Ezekiel Elliott, your Saquon Barkley type of once in a generation talent at running back. But obviously, there's been a philosophy shift. Teams aren't drafting running backs top 5, top 10, even top 15, even first round like they used to. I mean, insert Bijan and Zeke or Saquon's draft, he'd go just as high. He'd be a top 5 pick. But now teams are, sort of wising up a bit, not drafting running back super high. And again, I agree with this. I'm not going to take a running back number 4 overall anymore. As much as I love Zeke and I loved what he did, I'm not going to do that again. The positional value just isn't quite there when you can get a player in the 4th round like Tony Pollard, who is just as quality of a starter. So it's tough, and I know there's going to be some controversy on a pick like that, but to me, I'm not going to do it early on. But 26th pick, now you got me thinking. I wouldn't mind that because this is quite simply, if I'm looking at it, I haven't graded them all, but this is a top 5 prospect from a talent perspective. In all honesty, might be number 1. He might be truly the best prospect in the entire draft. For sure, top 5, but just, of course, the positional value. He's not going to be drafted as such anymore. If you can get him at 26, do it. Why not? You can reset the running back position, have Pollard play out the franchise tag, and then, depending on how he does, let him go. I don't want to pay another running back long term for him to possibly get washed up like Zeke did. You can reset the running back position, a cheaper option. You have him for the next 5 years of the rookie deal. Obviously, extensions. We'll see about that. But we'll cross that road when we get there. You reset. You're young again at running back, and you have possibly a top running back in the entire league as rookie. To me, he just reminds me so much of what Zeke was, of what Saquon Barkley was coming out of the draft. This is a once-in-a-generation type of talent. And if you can get a player like that late first round at the 26th pick, I don't care. You do it. I don't care what position it is. I think the main drawback was prior to some of the moves was, you're ignoring more dire positions of need. You're taking a running back when you need a receiver, when you desperately need a corner, but bringing in guys like Stephon Gillmore, Brandin Cooks, and just using day 3 picks to get them, all of a sudden those needs are filled. And I'm looking at this Cowboys roster, and there is not a single position that is in desperate need of being addressed. I think it's always nice to get offensive line depth. I'd like to bring in another tight end, I'd like to bring in an interior defensive lineman, maybe another linebacker, just around, you can go around the roster and I can be like, yeah, I'd like to spend a 3rd round pick there, a 4th round pick there, a depth piece here. But there's not a position that it's like, okay, you need a 1st round pick to address this quickly. Cornerback was that prior. You were about to go into the season with Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, and Nishan Wright, Kelvin Joseph. I'm not okay with that. I was gonna, say 1st round pick, 2nd round pick, minimum on that. Wide receiver, same thing. You were about to go into the season with CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and Jalen Tolbert. I'm not okay with that. But now you bring in veterans. You bring in guys that can play this role immediately. You take away these dire needs. That's what the free agency period is for addressing these needs prior to the draft. And then in the draft, you don't have to be so worried about, okay, my first round pick needs to be a corner or it needs to be a wide receiver. No, you can take the best player available. And if the best player available is Bijan Robinson, I am all for it. Do it 100% of the time. Make Bijan a Cowboy, keep him in Texas, and all of a sudden, you have another superstar running back coming right into the door. So I would love that move. Let me know what you think. Let me know who you want to draft. And obviously, as we get closer to the draft, I'll do more coverage. Maybe even I'll do a breakdown of mock draft video. But we'll talk more Cowboys prospects, all that as the time comes. But for now, I'm excited. Free agency is continuing. The Cowboys, I'm sure, will continue to make more moves. Wow, I can't believe I said that. But thanks again, guys, for watching. Thank you for tuning in to an incredible start to the offseason. Obviously, I'll keep you guys posted as more news goes down. But, man, I could not be happier with this start. What a job. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but credit to the Joneses. You guys are finally doing it right, finally committing, and finally putting this team in a position to win now and truly, truly be a Super Bowl threat. Not by fluke, not by crazy performances. No, you are investing. You are bringing in talent. You are purposefully building this team to championship standards. And I can't wait to see how it plays out. We have more offseason to go. We have the draft, and then finally, the season will be back. What a start, and I can't wait to see what they do next. Thanks again for watching. I will see you guys next time, and go Cowboys.